quick recap. So I'm going to follow on from yesterday. So yesterday I spoke to you about the 6 human needs. These are not desires, by the way. Human needs, they're physiological needs. They're psychological needs, more so for psychological needs. The ones that we were talking about anyway. They're the things that we work on consciously or unconsciously. And we were saying about those 6 human needs being of certainty, variety or uncertainty, if you want to look at it like that, significance, love and connection, growth or contribution. And I told you all that my one, hi Jackie and Karen, my one came up as contribution, which is about helping others, and yeah, I do like to help others. That is one of my big needs, to be helping people, but also growth is very important to me. And I had quite a few people send me the pictures of their results. Hi Sarah. And what actually came out was the majority had significance came up for them. Now, part of that could be to do with that a lot of the people that did the quiz were in adolescence. So they're going into becoming adults, their children becoming adults. And what happens at the age that these girls that send their quizzes in are at, there's something at the front of your brain that's developing, that is kind of trying to work out your identity, which would explain the reason why significance would be so important for them. And it happens for people at all ages, that significance becomes a new growth kind of path for them, where they kind of re-finding a new identity, or there's change happening for them, so significance comes up again. But if you were to do this test in, say, 5 years' time, something else may come out. Now, what we want to do is to have all 6 of these areas like fairly level, if we can, because then you're going to be happier, because you're fulfilling all of the human needs. So what I want to talk to you today kind of follows on from that. Yeah, it's about the 4 classes of behaviour. So, yeah, what else did I want to say? I was saying about how the human needs influence our deepest motivations. All right, so it motivates us to, and it's how we prioritise stuff. And we strive daily to meet all of these 6 needs, but with varying success. So, yeah, I mean, if you do meet one of those needs at quite a high level, you're going to experience happiness because you've met a need. So that is when we feel happy. So try to notice, try to notice when you feel happy, what caused that happiness? What need was it that was met when you fulfilled that need? You know, which need was met when you felt happy? And obviously, on the other end of the scale, if you are feeling low, which of your needs aren't being met? And try and find them, and find a way to fulfill those needs. So tomorrow's talk is going to be about how we put the 4 classes of behaviour and your 6 human needs together to make you all really happy, shining people. So, 4 classes of behaviour. Right. So, understanding these will help you to see what motivates you and your psychological tendencies. And understanding will help you to appreciate the long or short-term consequences of your daily actions and choices. So let me just see, I've made a lot of notes again because I just want to get this absolutely right. So your decisions and behaviours, when you indulge certain behaviours, decisions, they're coming from like a pain or pleasure response. So it's called the pain and pleasure principle. It's either avoidance of pain, you're making decisions based on the avoidance of pain, or the promise of pleasure. So whilst I'm talking, you may as well just sit there with your eyes closed, because you can then drift off and think of different situations when I'm talking about it. I want you to think of a time or a situation where you have avoided doing something due to your presumption that it's going to give you pain. So it might not be something you've done before, but because you liken it to something else, you might presume that it's going to give you pain, so therefore you avoid it. What situations have you done this in? I'll give you an example, and then maybe you'll be able to think of something for yourself. So an example, going to the gym. I used to make the excuse, I don't like to go to the gym. I don't like going on the running machine. It makes me out of breath. It makes me wheeze, and I don't like running on the running machine. There's lots of other things to do in the gym. But anyway, so that was my thing. I don't want to go to the gym because it'd be painful. Let's go and have something to eat. Okay. So in the short term, you're going to be getting some pain. But actually, long term, you come out feeling better. You've released some endorphins. You're going to be healthier. You'll be in better shape. So as a long-term goal, long-term results actually do outweigh the short term, but you're going to see the short term quicker, so you might tend to go towards that. Hey Ellie and Julie, Ellie, lovely, hello. So yeah, we kind of go for the short term usually to get instant gratification. So so another example is maybe you'll avoid pain by, there's something that you need to tell someone, but you avoid telling them because you presume that it's going to hurt them, or their reaction's going to be bad. How many times have you done that? How many times have you guessed the future and kind of been living in your head, not what's actually happening right now, not what's going to happen, but you're guessing what's going to happen in the future, so you avoid doing it, creating more long-term pain for you and possibly for them, because you're not living an honest truth for what, might be right for that other person as well. You're guessing. Okay, so your presumptions are probably making you stick to short-term gratification of what you think is keeping you in a happy friendship or a happy relationship. We don't necessarily actually know the response. So, and how many times have you gone ahead and just bit the bullet and said what you needed to say, and then the response has been great? It's been something you could never have expected because you never did know anyway what the answer was going to be. So you're living in fear now rather than biting the bullet, go and do it. Go and say what you need to say. And if we're all living our lives like from our truth, and we're being honest, and we're saying what we're saying from love and what's right for us, then if we say to people something that's our truth and they don't like it, then they have the choice to either go away and think about it and react however they want to react. That's their choice. That's their reality and their truth. And maybe, the outcome is what should have been anyway. So, often it's good to just do what feels right. And I always talk about that. Do what feels right for you. And feels good. What feels good? Sometimes we're going to be going into something doesn't feel good in the short term, but feels really good in the long term. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the 3 classes of behaviour. So the first class of behaviour, it's actions that lead to short and long-term pleasure, which is the ideal for everyone. So an example of this that feels good is good for you it's good for others, and it serves the greater good. For example, is loving somebody. So you may truly love somebody and they truly love you back. Often like mother-child relationships or your life partner. That is a win-win situation for everybody, and it feels nice no matter what way you look at it. That's class 1 behaviour. Class 2 behaviour is short-term pain for a long-term goal or long-term pleasure, which is what I was talking about getting in the gym, etc. So just stop and think about somewhere where you've done something that has been painful in the short term, but actually the results in the long term have been the best thing ever. And I'd love to hear your answers afterwards of where this has happened for you. Okay. And then think of something where it doesn't feel good in the beginning, so you've avoided it. Okay. And you've procrastinated. That goes to class 4, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. All right, so think about where this has happened for you. I'd love to hear your responses to that. Okay. Now, in all of these, in a little while, I am going to be asking you if you can tell me where you live your life most. Class 1, 2, 3 or 4. So remember them. Class 1 is win-win for everyone. Class 2 doesn't feel good to doing it to start with. It's good for you. It's good for others. And it's good in the long term. All right, so this is class 2. Doesn't feel good in the short term. It's good for you, it's good for others, and it's good for the greater good. Okay? Right, so class 3. It feels good, but it isn't good for you, it isn't good for others, and it doesn't serve the greater good. As you know, when I say the greater good, I mean as in the ripples that it has on everybody else in your world, in the universe kind of thing, if you like. So anything that you binge on, like TV, food, alcohol, anything, sugary drinks, it probably feels good at that moment when you're eating it, and 5 minutes later you have the sugar crash after you've had sugar. Binge watched TV, and then in the evening after you've binge watched TV all day, gone, oh, I have missed a whole day of my life watching other people. So it feels good whilst you're sitting doing it, and later you kind of get that, yeah. So it's seeking short-term fixes really in class 3, but very, very, very rarely ending up with a long-term result being for the greater good or for yourself or others. So, yeah, I've written, when we get here regularly, it shows us that we need to stop and we need to check in with ourselves to know what is right for us. So if you're one of these people that is literally running around from the second you wake up until you go to bed, you're not doing what's right for you. You're most probably grabbing a quick sandwich. You're grabbing whatever you can as a quick term fix to give you that lift because you're constantly on the go. It would serve you better to stop and think, what are you going to, what do you need to do? What's right for you? So I'm going to get my pendulum that I have here. I spoke to you all about this, I think last week. It's a tool that you can use. If you've not got one of these, which not a lot of people do, I do get that. If you've got one of these, if you haven't got one of these, then you can use a necklace that's got a little pendant on it. You just hold it about 2 or 3 inches. And the trick is not to force it to move a certain way. And you can ask it questions. So, for example, if you're you're trying to make a decision on something and you kind of tend to procrastinate, or you know what you want for the short-term fix, but you're really hard, you struggle to kind of go for what's good for you, ask this a question and just go with what it says, because it's your intuition telling you. So what I usually do is just say, right, okay, can you show me your answer for your yes? And mind circles. Now can you show me an answer for no? And it changes quite quickly and goes backwards and forwards. So then I can ask it, for myself, what's good for me, should I grab myself a coffee? Now, I don't know if you can see, I'm not making this move. Okay. It's probably not good because I've already had 3 coffees today and I usually try to stick to 1. Do I need to eat right now? No. Now, I haven't had lunch, but I don't actually feel hungry. But you may not have had lunch and think, I need to eat lunch. If your body doesn't need it, you don't need to have it. So, you know, ask a pendant. It's really good. It's a good tool to use. And it's a bit of fun. Anyway, so class 4. All areas are at a loss with class 4. Okay. So it's basically choosing short-term pain for a long-term pain. Yeah, no one wants to be doing that, but we all do it. You might not like to admit it, but we do all do it. When we wallow in stress, worry, when we are angry, when we lose our temper, sometimes we do indulge in that. And sometimes you do need a release, but we don't want to be indulging in this. It's not going to make you feel good. It's not going to make someone else feel good. It's not going to be good for the greater good. It's not going to serve anybody. So I'm telling you all this because it's an insight into your decision-making processes. So the pain and pleasure principle. All right, so you want to be trying to stick to, as much as possible, the 1s and 2s, where there might be it's good for everyone, feels good, and it's for the greater good. And class 2 behaviour, where it could be short-term pain, but with a long-term pleasure and goal. So, for example, really knuckling down and getting some work done that isn't pleasurable. It's hard work, but it might take 2 or 3 weeks of hard work for maybe months or years of a good end-term goal. Now, sometimes we will slip into class 3 behaviours because we will convince ourselves that the long-term goal is going to be for the greater good, or it's going to be good for someone else, but it's not good for you, but it's not really good for them either because we've made up a story. So it's about stopping, checking in, and making sure that you are making decisions based on class 1 and 2, really, and noticing if you slip into class 3. So, I've not done a meditation with you today, but I do hope that you found that interesting. Tomorrow we're going to be putting the 2 together of the 6 human needs and the 4 behaviours, classes of behaviour, and helping you to kind of work out how to be happy all the time. That would be great. Okay, so thank you for watching again. I've loved having you here, and have a lovely rest of your day. I shall see you tomorrow for the end instalment for this week. See ya!